From the Columbia University Language Resource Center, this is Said and Done, the podcast about languages and the people who speak them. This is Said and Done. I'm Chris Kaiser, and joining me is Wynnie Lamour-Quansah, who's a lecturer of Haitian Creole at NYU, the founder and managing director of the Haitian Creole Language Institute of New York, and the co-founder of Jaden Timoun, a Haitian Creole language immersion program for children. In this conversation, Wynnie talks about her own experience with growing up and speaking Haitian Creole. She discusses the origins and revolutionary history of the language, its status today in Haiti, and the relationship between language, politics, and power. Here's my conversation with Wynnie Lamour-Quansah. Professor Wynnie Lamour-Quansah, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I wanted to start by asking you a little bit about your background, your linguistic background, but also your personal background and its intersection with Haitian Creole.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, where do I begin? How much time do we have?
As much time as you want.
So, I was born in Haiti and raised in Brooklyn. So, I always tell people that I am Haitian American. I'm a hyphenated Haitian, but more largely, I identify as Black. So, I'm a member of the Afro diaspora. So, that's where I land in terms of my personal identity. I grew up hearing and speaking Haitian Creole at home, even though linguistically my mother tongue got switched because I moved to the States quite young. So it went from being Haitian Creole to English. I still maintained my relationship with Haitian Creole because I grew up with my grandmother at home and she didn't speak any English. So I had no choice but to speak with her in Haitian Creole. So between my family being Haitian, my grandma not speaking English, and then also a very early discovery of a deep love for language, between all of that, it was inevitable that I would land on linguistics as an area of study in school. I also grew up speaking Spanish, so my brain is like, I don't know, I think in language. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone thinks in language, but like I think in language. So my studies focused on linguistics and primarily on Haitian Creole. So it just, I don't know, it made sense for me to land there because Haitian Creole is so close to my heart and it's a part of my cultural heritage.
So as you think about your identity and your mind, what parts of your mind are in English, what parts are in Haitian Creole, or is it all together?
That's a really great question. I think about this all the time because I have a little baby who's almost 2 and I'm raising her bilingual. Well, I'm raising her with my husband, her dad, bilingual. And I often ask myself, I wonder what is going on in her mind. Um, like, what does she use Kreyòl for, and what does she use English for? And then so I've had to ask myself that question in recent times, and I realized like a lot of my home vocabulary is Haitian Creole. I mean, I'm a heritage speaker of Creole, so that makes sense, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
your home space where the language is spoken, if that's where you were immersed in it, the vocabulary of that space is is what you're most comfortable with. So I think at home in Haitian Creole, when I'm cooking, I'm thinking in Haitian Creole. When I'm trying to be like stern, I try to mimic my mom, I think, in Haitian Creole. Um, Haitian Creole is what I call a revolutionary language. And so it's a language of liberation. So I feel free when I'm speaking Haitian Creole. I feel like very open. There's some words that I just don't even really feel comfortable saying in English. I would say that because English is still my dominant language, everything else is in English.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I communicate with people at work, if I'm outside and talking to people, the books that I read are primarily in English, and I read a wide range of books. So it varies for me, but one thing that is important for me is that I maintain a strong grip on Haitian Creole because it's easy to lose it because I'm not in Haiti right now. I'm not in a space where I'm immersed in the language. So, the way our neurons work, they kind of just like fade
Yeah,
away.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
I do make a very intentional effort to read in Kreyòl and say things I wouldn't normally say in Kreyòl. So I do push myself past my point of comfort in Haitian Creole on purpose.
Yeah. I find it fascinating that you also are pushing this into the next generation, that
Yeah.
you've made the conscious decision that you will
Yes.
transmit this language
Yes.
to your child. And I was wondering, can you talk a little bit about the reasoning behind that? Because I'm sure it's not easy, when you're in an English environment to raise a child in another language.
No, it's not easy at all. Um, how can I not? is my first. That's where my mind goes first. How can I not pass this on to my baby? Um, when I talk to my mom and I need her to really understand what I'm saying, I have to say it in Haitian Creole. Not that my mom doesn't speak English. She's going to listen to this podcast and be like, why are you telling people? No, my mom speaks English perfectly fine. But her true spiritual language is Haitian Creole. So I have to say it to her in Creole if I really want her to get it. And for me, it's important that my baby have that same connection with her elders, and my elders, because family and community is such an important foundational piece of Haitian culture. I can't leave the language out of it for her. I have to make sure that she's equipped and she's armed to take on certain experiences with Haitian Creole. But it's very challenging.
Sure. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
very challenging. On social media, I have this like series called Raising a Bilingual Baby. It's totally ridiculous, but I like being on social media because it's such a stress reliever for me, and I'm actually pretty good at like curating the algorithm so I get the things that I want to see. But I talk to people about my experience raising my baby bilingual, and I talk to them about some of the challenges. So, right now I call my baby online Baby B. So right now Baby B is like mixing languages, which is totally normal.
Yeah.
And you can see that she's like playing around with the grammatical rules of both English and Haitian Creole, which is really fun. Sometimes confusing because I'm like, girl, what are you trying to say to me?
Yeah.
And you can see that she'll like say things to me in Haitian Creole and then say things to her dad, my husband, in English, because my husband's not Haitian. He's learning Kreyòl too, but Kreyòl is not his native language. So she's very intentional, even at her young age, about how she uses language. And despite the challenges of like mixing up words, mixing the grammar, not being able to understand her sometimes, despite all of those challenges, I see how important it is to start really early with language because it just like clicks for them, right?
Yeah.
And you can see that it means something to them despite that young age.
Yeah, I think when I've seen bilingual children growing up, it takes a little while for them to sort out, which language is which. But I think it's an incredibly valuable gift that you can give your child.
Yep.
So I wanted to talk about Haitian Creole as a language. Can you help me understand the difference between calling it Haitian Creole or Kreyòl and the proper name for this language?
Yes, that is a great question with a lot of different answers. So I'm going to give you my answer.
Sure.
There is a really big debate going on around this particular question about, is it called Haitian Creole? Is it called Creole? Is it called Kreyòl? And the answer is that it's important to know the etymology of the word Creole, the history of it. I think that helps us better contextualize the argument and the debate that's going on. So the word Creole, the English word Creole, and then all of the other words for Creole in other languages, comes from an old Portuguese word, Criollo, which was a word that was created to describe someone of European heritage who was not born in Europe but was born in the colonies. So there has always been, for the word Creole, a sense of othering and different. So it's like, okay, you're one of us, but like, you're not quite like us. And so that word has evolved over time to mean different things in different spaces, right? But the history of the word generally has not been wholly positive. And for folks who are on the side of the debate that's pressing us to release our use of the word Creole, they focus really heavily on that. They say that we should really be severing ties with that negative history. We should be reclaiming our identity as ourselves. We are Haitian, we speak Haitian, our history is Haitian, our language should be called Haitian. And I totally understand. I think the other side to the debate is that if you're a linguist, you go by what the people say, right? And the people of Haiti call their language Kreyòl. That's the name of the language. Moi parle Kreyòl, ou parle Kreyòl, nous parle Kreyòl. So Kreyòl is the word that we use to describe and name the language that we speak. That's the reality. If you want to shift that, that's not a shift that can happen just like that, right? That's something that may take generations, depending on how much influence you have. You know, it might take a shorter period of time, but in any case, the people have to decide what the name is. And if the name is Kreyòl, that's where we are now. So where does that leave us, right? For folks who are kind of understanding of the history and understanding of the importance of being very intentional about creating our own identity on our own terms. And then the folks who are like, well, that's just the name of it, like we should just accept it. So like, where do we land? I kind of land a little bit in the middle. Although I have to say, the older I get, the more radical my thinking gets. So my answer to this question may be very different in like 5 years.
Okay. All right. So if you're listening to this in 5 years, maybe different.
It may be different. So I will say that it's important that you are clear, if you're speaking in English, about the type of Creole. So I'm talking about the word spelled Creole. I think it's important that you're clear about the type of Creole you are referring to, or which Creole you're referring to. If you say to someone, oh, you speak Creole, that doesn't mean anything. Like that could be any language that's spoken in any place, anywhere in the world that was colonized. Almost every space in the world that was colonized has a Creole language. If you look at a map of colonization, you're looking at a map of Creolization. So if I say to you, I speak Creole, I could be from Louisiana, I could be from Mauritius, I could be from any island in the South Pacific. I literally could be from anywhere. So I do tell people in English to be very specific. If you're referring to the Creole that is spoken by Haitian people, you should say Haitian Creole. Now, if I'm speaking in Haitian Creole and I say to you, moi parle Kreyòl, that's fine. Saying Kreyòl in Kreyòl, I think is totally fine, because that currently is the name that we ascribe to our language. But it's a very complicated debate, and I think it's rooted in the desire to name ourselves as Black people, and I fully understand that desire, fully. But I also think it's important to be guided by both the people and the history. I just think that right now there's no clear answer yet, but I land in the middle for now.
You mentioned something that I think could be, maybe the listeners of this podcast might not know, which is what is a Creole language as well.
Yeah. So very simply, a Creole language is a language that arises when two very different groups of people speak two very different languages. And so in the case of Haiti, we're talking about the French colonizers who were engaging with the people that they kidnapped from West Africa and enslaved on the island of Haiti. So we're talking about the languages spoken by the enslaved people, because the enslaved people at the time were kidnapped from many different areas, and so then even amongst themselves spoke many different languages, and the French that was spoken at that time. So we're talking about, oh man, it's like such an emotional thing to talk about, because for me, Haitian Creole is the clearest indication of the humanity of the people that were enslaved, because folks were going through a process of dehumanization. And despite the deep process of dehumanization that they underwent, they were still able to create this new language, which for me is like the biggest indicator that the French knew that they were dealing with humans.
Yeah.
Because the most basic human thing and the most basic human action is communication. You put two people in a room who don't speak the same language, they will invariably find a way to figure things out. That's like the most basic human thing you can do. Even babies find a way to communicate with us, right? They cry, they move their bodies, they point to different things, like you can figure it out. So Creoles are essentially the tool that two groups of humans who were in a very tumultuous space needed to create in order to communicate. So Haitian Creole is that. There are a lot of theories around the origins of Haitian Creole, but very, very simply, it uses French vocabulary with West African grammar. And so you'll see, for example, a lot of similarities between how we make sentences in Haitian Creole and how sentences are formed in many West African languages, which makes sense. That's where our people were kidnapped from. And then also layered on top of that is the French vocabulary that was spoken at the time. I will say, as a sidebar, that a lot of French speakers today will understand a lot of the vocabulary words that are used in Haitian Creole. However, the two languages are not mutually intelligible. And I think sometimes folks miss the most obvious, which I love pointing out. The French that was spoken in the 14 and 1500s is simply not the same French that's spoken today. Like, we're not using the same words. So sometimes you'll hear French speakers, like contemporary French speakers, will say, "Oh, but that's not how we say it." Of course, it's not how you say it, because you weren't alive in the 1400s. You're not speaking the French that was spoken then. So yeah, it's a complex and tumultuous and emotional history, but I think that Haitian Creole is the biggest indicator of our humanity as Black people, and it continues to be a liberatory language even today.
I was fascinated how, when you were speaking earlier, you described it as a revolutionary language,
Yeah.
and that's what it means to you. Could you elaborate on that a little bit and what you mean by that?
Oh yeah, it's not just what it means to me. It's, I think, a fact of history. The thing that a lot of folks don't reflect on too much is that the folks who were enslaved on the island, well, at the time, the indigenous people called it Haiti. And then when it was colonized, it was the colony of Saint Domingue. And then when we got free again, the revolutionary leaders at the time honored the name that the indigenous people used for the land. And so that's why the land is still called Haiti. So the name of the island now is an indigenous Taino word. So for me, it's important to point that out. But I think that folks forget that the folks who were enslaved at the time spoke many different languages. So even amongst the enslaved people who were trying to figure out how to get free, they did not speak the same language. So having a common language of Haitian Creole actually allowed folks to strategize, to plan, to ideate, to converse in a way that was understandable, right? And that seems very, very basic. Like, okay, great. I can tell you, let's meet at midnight in the bushes behind Master's house and let's talk about getting free. That seems like really simple, but actually that was the biggest tool that people had, that the language, the tool of language, the language of Haitian Creole was the biggest tool that people had to actually get to freedom. Because The French were not going to free us, although they will claim that they abolished slavery, and then the United States was abolishing slavery, and England abolished it. Like, we can kind of see these different dates on paper, but in reality, like, people were still enslaved, and the enslaved folks at the time knew that they had to take their freedom. So the Haitian Revolution was able to happen not just because people were like sick and tired, and then they were influenced by maybe, different historical events, maybe. But one thing's for sure, being able to communicate in a way that they could understand each other allowed them to get to that freedom. So that's why I call Haitian Creole a revolutionary language, because it actually led to our freedom. There's a direct correlation between us being enslaved and then getting free.
It was the mechanism,
Was
one
the
of the
mechanism.
mechanisms
Exactly.
of that
Yep.
of that revolution. And I think a lot of people today think about language as a kind of neutral or inert thing, but this really shows, it really puts a spotlight on the fact that a language can have liberatory power.
Oh, absolutely.
A language can change history.
Absolutely.
It can affect political outcomes. And
Absolutely.
I think that's very clear with
Absolutely.
Haitian Creole.
There's a reason why there's a saying in Haitian Creole that goes like this: Kreyòl parle, Kreyòl comprend, which means literally word for word, Kreyòl spoken, Kreyòl understood. So even among Haitian people still today, they know that if you speak to me in Kreyòl, you're talking to me straight. You're telling me the truth. You're saying it to me direct, and we're going to make something happen. There's a wisdom that's woven into the language itself that continues to be alive today in people speaking it.
Can you think of other examples of this wisdom that's embedded in the language?
Yeah, there's so many sayings. Like, one of my favorite is tout moun c'est moun, which translates to all people are people. Even the word that we use for man. And I'm going to preface this by saying I'm going to put patriarchy aside for a moment. Patriarchy kind of like guides the things that we do everywhere. So I'm going to set it aside for now for this comment that I'm going to make. So in the Haitian language, the word neg means man. It doesn't translate to black man. It just translates to man. Sometimes you can say tout neg c'est neg. All men are men. But for those of you who are listening who speak Romance languages, you'll recognize the word neg comes from the Romance language word for black, like negro in Spanish, neg in French. This is the word for black. But in Creole, it does not translate to black man, because to be a man is to be inherently black in Haitian culture. I don't gotta tell you you black. If you Haitian, you black. So much so that the Polish soldiers that Napoleon sent to Saint-Domingue to fight against the enslaved, when they got to the island, realized they were on the wrong side of history and started fighting with the enslaved people against Napoleon. And many Polish soldiers stayed after the war ended, after the independence was won, and they became black too. They were black. Now they were neg. And that idea for me of Blackness being an inherent part of our identity, so much so that it's in the language itself, for me is so powerful. Because we don't have to explicitly say the thing that folks are afraid to say. We know it about ourselves, so much so that it's in our language. And
it's not the colonizing language. It's a different language.
Even though we do use the colonizers' vocabulary words.
But you use it in your own way.
We do. We use it in our own way. I really so very much love Haitian Creole. It's just such a powerful language. Everyone should learn it.
Can you talk about the status of Haitian Creole in Haiti today, in an educational context or a policy context?
The status of Kreyòl in Haiti right now, it's very complicated and simple at the same time. One thing that everyone can agree on in Haiti is that Haitian Creole is the true mother tongue of Haitian people. Actually, no one will argue this with you. No one will point to like, oh, but the data says, but the facts are. Nobody will say that. Everybody, wherever they land, will agree that Haitian Creole is the true mother tongue of Haitian people. Okay, so that for me is like a great starting point. But the challenge that we come across is the history of French on the land and it being ever present, especially after the presence of the Catholic Church in the later part of the 1800s that came to Haiti and began to take charge of education in Haiti. And so education for many years has taken place in French, which is wild, which is wild because when you think about school, right? Like, let's just, for those of you listening, like, think about when you went to school, right? You went to school and your teacher was speaking a language that your mama spoke, right? Like, you would hear it at home. Like, here in the States, if you're born in the States and raised here and you start school, let's say at age 4, the teacher's going to be speaking to you in English, and it's in language that you heard. Like, your mama scolds you in English, cousins make jokes in English. Like, you go to school and you're like, oh yeah, I know what the teacher's saying. Sit down, stand up, don't cry, it's okay. But in Haiti, that's not what happens. In Haiti, you start school and the teacher is speaking to you in French as if you already know it. So the disconnect is really incredible.
Yeah.
And it's so glaringly a disconnect that sometimes I ask myself, there's no way that folks expect these young people to know this language that they don't speak at home. And if they'd never been to school before that day, they've probably never heard French before that time. So I think about what it takes to allow a disconnect like that to continue. And it takes an incredible amount of systemic disorder, systemic everything. You can, every word you want to put after the word systemic, that's what it is. It takes an incredible amount of internalized anti-Blackness to continue with a system like that clearly doesn't work. Because what ends up happening is that students in IET will spend their entire educational career just trying to figure out the language that they're being taught in versus the content that that they should be learning. And this is very challenging. And you have teachers that are teaching students in a language that they never fully learned either. So there's this constant recycling of not really learning not really fully native French, being told that French is what you need to learn in order to move up socioeconomically, being told that Haitian Creole, being monolingual Haitian Creole means that you're uneducated. There are all of these ideas that people internalize and allow themselves to be blind to the gross negligence of not teaching children in their mother tongue. Literally, no one will argue this. Like, no one will say, oh yeah, teaching kids in their mother tongue, oh, that's not good. Nobody will say that. Everybody agrees the best way to teach children is in their mother tongue. But that's not what's happening in Haiti. But that is changing. There have been many people fighting for Haitian Creole for generations. Like, we can go back to the late 1800s when the Catholic Church came and took over the educational system. Like, even then there were people that were like, no, we can't be doing this. And then there have been Creolist movements for years. There are even amendments in the Haitian Constitution that say that Haitian Creole and French are both official languages, which means everything needs to be in both languages, but it's not. There was the creation of the Haitian Creole Academy, which is the governing body for Haitian Creole now. So they've been tasked with translating a lot of text and helping to build curricula. There are more and more schools offering their classes in Haitian Creole. Students are able to take national exams in Haitian Creole. So things are shifting. The current status of Kreyòl is that it still lives in the shadow of French in terms of privilege, but people are starting to realize, okay, there's more that we need to do to shift that. I don't know where it will go. My hope is that we recognize that French should be taught as a second language and not as the tool of instruction, as if it were the mother tongue of Haitian people. I hope that that's where we go. But I think the best thing that happened for Haitian Creole was the internet. Yeah, and I think that folks everywhere, when they're given a tool to express themselves, they will express themselves in the language that they are native in, right? So that's what has happened with Haitian Creole. You can find blogs written in Haitian Creole. There are so many skits in Haitian Creole online, people writing essays. There are online magazines where you can read articles in English and Haitian Creole. There is so much content in Haitian Creole now in a way that there was not 25 years ago. And just seeing that amount of content, just the quantity of it, the grandeur of it, it's another reminder that, oh, okay, Haitian people speak Haitian Creole, period. There's no denying it.
You know, from what you're saying, I was just thinking about it, and you tell me if I'm thinking correctly. It would be like, you know, I grew up speaking English, and that was the only language that I spoke. And English is related to Latin, German, and but also a lot of the vocabulary comes from Latin. So it'd be like if I went to preschool or kindergarten and everybody was conducting that in Latin, and me trying to understand. These are not related. I mean, they're related, but they are not. They're totally different languages.
One example that I like to give is there's a professor based out of MIT. His name is Michel Degraff, and he has done a lot of really amazing work with educators in Haiti and young people in Haiti around Haitian Creole and using Haitian Creole to teach STEM subjects. So he has worked with math teachers to create curricula in Kreyòl, etc., etc. And he was showing a video once of a teacher teaching young people in Haiti. I think they were maybe in like kindergarten or first grade, so like really young children. And in Haiti, they still practice rote memorization, so you have to like recite your work, recite what you know. So the teacher was saying to them in French, the sky is blue. So the teacher was saying, le ciel est bleu. And the students were repeating, le ciel est bleu. The teacher was saying bleu, and the students were saying bleu. Okay, which makes sense because actually we don't have that sound in Kreyòl. So the teacher says again, le ciel est bleu. And the kids again say, le ciel est bleu. And then the teacher switches from speaking to them in French to now scolding them in Kreyòl. Mes amis Timoun, c'est pas bleu, c'est bleu. So she scolds them in Kreyòl and then goes back to le ciel est bleu. And the kids again say, le ciel est bleu. And for me, it's like, what? You know, it sounds like I'm telling like a joke, right? But this is like the wild stuff that happens out in the open that people accept because of all this internalized ideas about how they should be, what they should speak, how they should sound, despite the fact of the matter. And imagine being 6, saying what you know people say, like your mama says bleu, your cousin says bleu, your daddy says bleu, and you go to school and now everybody's like bleu, bleu, bleu. And you're like, okay, that's, it like kind of sounds the same. So like, you know, they're saying the word for blue, but it's not quite because like your ears don't use that U sound. So imagine being 5, 6 years old and you're like, what is going on? Like, why are people talking like this? But then you know enough that if you don't talk like that, you know that you won't be able to do A, B, or C. You won't be able to go X, Y, and Z places. So now you're like pressed, right? To sound a certain way and to speak a certain language, but you don't actually feel connected to it. So I think what that translates to is we're losing great minds.
Mm.
Sometimes children do things that demonstrate to you how expansive their minds are. So now imagine you have this capacity for expansiveness, but you can't actually tap into it because the language that you want to use, you're not encouraged to use it. And on top of that, children in Haiti don't learn how to read and write in Haitian Creole. So they're speaking it, they're learning how to read and write in French, but the language that they speak, that they feel most connected to, they never learn how to read and write in on a national level. So we're losing all this capacity for problem solving and imaginative solutions and creative ideas. Like, I'm not saying nobody in Haiti is doing anything. That's not true. Like, people are absolutely galvanizing, and at the community level, yes, there are many people doing great things, but I'm talking about like on a national level, at the governmental level, the press is not yet there, and socially, the press is not yet there.
So you teach Haitian Creole at NYU,
Yes,
and
very humbly.
one of the reasons why people take languages is that it leads you into a culture. It takes you to a totally different place. It transcends the place where you are and takes you somewhere else. And so, in your experience as a teacher for university level students, what are some of the places, the cultural places that learning Haitian Creole can take your students?
Ooh, you mean besides like good food?
Well, that could be part of it, sure.
Yeah. One of the first things that I tell my students when I teach them is that they're about to be learning a very Black language with a very Black history. And so that means that they have to take it very seriously, you know? They have to be very mindful about how they engage, not just with Haitian Creole, but Haitian culture, pressing themselves to think past what they may have heard about Haitian people, pressing themselves past what they may know about spelling, because for example, Haitian Creole is a highly phonemic language, which means the way you say it is the way you spell it. Sometimes people are really uncomfortable with this because of how we're socialized to think about how different languages should be spelled. So I think that students know that they're stepping into a Black cultural space and they must move with respect. And so that means learning about Haitian music, Haitian food. I take my students out to eat. I take them to see plays. Like this past semester, well, this current semester, there's a play at the Signature Theater called Bad Kreyòl, written by Dominique Morisseau. And I actually had the great privilege of being the Haitian language consultant on that play to make sure that the accents sounded great and people were using proper Kreyòl. So my students were able to see that play. So in terms of cultural spaces, it's so wide. And honestly, New York City is another Caribbean city. We're not in the Caribbean, but we're a Caribbean city. And New York City is one of the best places to learn Haitian Creole. Haitian Creole is the number 5 most spoken language in New York City. And the opportunities are limitless here. Going out to talk to people in different spaces is totally possible here. So learning Haitian Creole doesn't just stay in the classroom with me. I actually take students out into the larger classroom space that is New York City.
I think that's great. And I think that a lot of students taking languages at the university level may not think that they should go out into the city and use this language and practice this language. They might be scared or intimidated. And so what would you tell a student who is maybe a little shy or maybe afraid to use a language that they're learning?
Just do it. Just do it. It sounds, of course, easier said than done, but the truth is, if you really have a desire to speak the language, you have to speak the language.
Yeah.
If you really have a desire to learn the language and you're not using it, then you have to interrogate why you're learning the language in the first place. If you have a particular reason why you're learning the language, then you need to focus on that reason and engage with the language. So it's normal to feel apprehension and nervousness, all of the things, anxiety when it comes to practicing Kreyòl, but you actually have to do it. And you know what? I totally understand being on the student side because several years ago, when I got married, my husband is from Ghana and his family speaks Tree. So I was like, look, I'm gonna go learn Tree. I speak three languages. I can do this. Easy peasy. Nope, it was very hard.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was
yeah.
very, very hard. I sat in class. I was like, oh my god, how am I gonna say this? I had never seen these vowel sounds before. Like I struggled, and I realized that it's not easy being on the student side. It's one thing to be able to teach the language because you know it and you see it with clarity in front of you, but what got me over the hump of feeling nervous was just doing it.
Yeah.
Like I would say one word, then two words, and then three. I would just slowly build up. So maybe not diving in right away. If you feel like you can, dive in with your bad Creole, do it. If you feel like you can't, pick a word and then work with that word for a little while. One technique that I use with my students is building up something called a jakut. And a jakut in Haitian Creole is the satchel that farmers carry when they go out into the field. And they have like all their important materials in the jakut. Sometimes they have food, different tools, so everything that they need to be like away from home for a little while. And so, what I do with my students is I help them build a figurative jakut, a vocabulary jakut, where they're like, okay, I want to talk to my grandma about what I did at work. Okay, maybe I should know how to say the thing that I do in work in Kreyòl. That's going to go in my jakut. Or, I want to talk to my auntie about the food that she makes that I really love. Okay, I have to know how to say this food is really good. That's going to go in my jakut. So, having a goal in mind and having something that they can draw from regularly, both figuratively and literally if they write it down, but knowing that there's some stuff that they know that they have packed away in the jakut. They know how to say like sentences in past tense. They know how to say the word to like. They know how to say this one food item in Creole. Like they know first with certainty, okay, I can go to my jakut and draw something from my jakut and use it in this moment. And I think that has been really helpful to my students over the years.
Yeah, yeah. So another motivating idea when using a language, especially a language like Haitian Creole, I've been thinking a lot about the way that Haitians have been discussed in the current election season in what I would consider a very ignorant way. To speak that language is a form of rebellion against that negative image that's being bandied about. And I was wondering if you also thought that.
Yeah. I believe that everything that we do is political, from what you eat to who you love to the language that you speak. Absolutely. And the way that certain politicians have been speaking about Haitian people, I feel kind of torn about this because the truth is when it happened, and for all the folks who are listening to this, I'm referring to a current presidential candidate saying that Haitian people are eating cats and dogs, like they're eating their neighbors' cats and dogs. And I feel a lot of things about this, but the primary thing that I feel is confusion because are people not thinking critically? I said jokingly to my students, like, okay, let's say Haitian people do eat cats and dogs. So you're gonna come for us for eating cats, but y'all eat bunnies. So I don't know. Like, are we thinking critically or are we just going against Black people because like that's the thing to do? So I think that there's so much ignorance in how people speak about Haiti and Haitian people and Haitian Creole. There is so much ignorance. Like sometimes the ignorance is wild. And sometimes you ask yourself, well, but why would people say something like this? Or one example that I use is that Creole is a phonemic language. The way you say it is the way you spell it. But people often give pushback to this, like, oh well, you just spell it however you want. Like just sound it out and you'll be able to spell it. It's really easy. But there's another there's another major world language that is very phonemic that people don't give pushback for, and that language is Spanish.
Yeah.
Spanish is highly phonemic. There are no Spanish spelling bees because you can spell any word in the Spanish language because it's there's so much regularity in it. And so I think that the ignorance is because Haitian people are Black people. We are inherently Black, and we're very open about our Blackness. We're very clear and proud of our Blackness. And that makes a lot of people uncomfortable, especially presidential candidates who lack that same kind of confidence in themselves. And so it's easy to target Black people. It's easy to target Haitian people. And so I think that folks lack folks lack folks lack critical thinking skills, because the truth is what they were saying about Haitian people has been disproven many times. City officials have said to the contrary. Folks have shown that no, this is the source of the statement, which was wildly incorrect. I think folks are falling into the space of it's easy to target Black people. We've been targeted always, and the hard work, is the self-reflection and the introspection that people don't do. We have to ask ourselves, why is it so easy to target Haitian people? How come every election cycle there's something else that's being said about Haitian people? What is it about how I've been socialized that allows me to believe this thing that's being said about Black people, even though I myself have never seen someone eating a cat? I've never even seen it in even in passing. And the presidential candidate who mentioned this was talking about a city that's not even that big. So it's like, where are they eating the cats and dogs? Where is it happening? It's not like in New York City where something could happen and you never hear about it because you're in Brooklyn and I'm in the Bronx, right? It's like, really, what is going on? And the obvious answer is the deeply rooted anti-Blackness that exists in this country. I don't know, Chris. I almost didn't really want to respond to not this question that you're asking me, but when it happened, there were a lot of Haitian people that came out and they were making comments, and they were making statements. That's what I'm looking for. They were making statements, letting people know, no, we don't do this. Don't believe what this person is saying. Why? Yeah. Why must we defend ourselves when it's more than just one person? It's an actual systemic issue. I can't come out and try to convince the system that I'm a human. I can't come out and try to convince the system that I should be treated a certain way. And also, I didn't even build this system. It's other people's responsibility to figure that out. So when I saw Haitian people making statements like defending themselves, my first reaction was like, no, I'm not going to defend myself. Yeah. I'm not. I have nothing to defend myself against. It's not me. It's 100% other people. And I actually feel like even the defending of ourselves is work that is being placed on us. It's work that we have to do yet again to prove our humanity. And it's very tiring. And I don't want to do that, that work anymore. My work is in advocating for my language, advocating for my people, but in a way that honors the legacy of my people, not in a way that I'm always constantly having to okay, here's this other issue. Okay, let me go take away my time and energy from this thing and these people that need me, and go over here and do this work and say, oh, okay, it's us, we're human, and then go back to doing the work that's important. And then again, a few years later, people are like, well, Haitians do this. All right, okay, yeah, we're human, we're still human, don't do this to us. No, I don't want to do that kind of work anymore. My ancestors created this language for me so that I could continue to be reminded of the work that they did, so that I could be here today. And I'm here now because of the decisions that my ancestors did, the work that they put in. So now that I'm here, what is it that I need to be doing? And I can't give time and energy to people who are not thinking critically, who are being wildly ignorant, on purpose. And I also cannot give my time and energy to people who are not doing the work of interrogating themselves, because I interrogate myself. I may be a Black woman, but I have lots of other privileges. I'm an educated person. I'm able bodied. I can speak multiple languages. I have a US passport. Like, my list of privileges is long, and I'm constantly interrogating myself from those spaces of privilege. And if people aren't doing the same, I can't do that work for them. So I don't know. For whoever's listening out there, my my biggest point is you must think critically and you must interrogate yourself every day. You must question everything that you think, question everything that you consume, question every piece of media that you see. You have to always ask yourself, why am I thinking this thing right now? I see this person walking down the sidewalk. Why didn't I move my body over to let them go? Why am I barreling through? Why don't I see some people and then other people I immediately recognize? I think the self interrogation is lacking, and I can't do that work because there's already work that I'm doing that I need to be present for.
I agree. I think that's a beautiful way to put it. And I think that really those comments don't deserve a response other than to say, as you said, you need to think critically and examine the relations of power that
Yep.
caused those statements to exist in the first place.
Yep.
And so I guess the last thing I want to ask you about is power and the relationship between language and power,
Ooh.
and as it relates in my view to the work that you're doing at the Haitian Creole Language Institute of New York, as well as the Jaden Timoun language immersion program for children. Because as you've shown so beautifully in this conversation, Haitian Creole has this power, has this political power, and has a history of being used in a liberatory way. And so it's not a neutral language, it's a language that is vested with this power. And so can you talk a little bit about the work that you're doing with these two organizations, sort of in a practical sense, but also in terms of the long-term horizon and how you see it resonating with this history?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. At the Institute, we offer a lot of different types of classes, but our primary focus is teaching Haitian Creole. And we offer spaces where people can really dive into learning the language formally. And I have had students as young as 0. We had like a 4-day-old baby that came to our Jaden Timoun class, and the baby was super cute. And then I've also had elders take classes at the Institute, at the Kreyòl Institute, because they felt very distraught at not knowing how to read and write in their mother tongue. And there's a feeling of clarity that opens up when elders are finally able to see what's in their mind on paper. There's really a powerful feeling of like arriving at a certain place. And so that feeling of reclaiming power, of infusing power into how we think about Haitian Creole, is the primary purpose of the work that we do at the Kreyòl Institute and Jaden Timoun. And also at Jaden Timoun, which I co-founded with an amazing early childhood education specialist named Darnell Champagne. The work that we do at Jaden Timoun is understanding that the earlier you start, the better. You know, there's something to be said about being 12 and someone teasing you for speaking Kreyòl, but you've never sat down and learned the language, you don't know the history, you don't know anything, versus being 12 and you've taken like 12 years of Jaden Timoun, and then someone's teasing you, but you have already a strong sense of self. You're centered because you know the history of your language. You know the power that's the power that's imbued in the language. You know what's possible with the language. When someone says like, "Oh, well, you can't write poetry in Kreyòl," but you've already seen and read books in poetry in Kreyòl. Someone will tell you, and these are all examples of things people have said to me. Someone will tell you like, "Oh, well, you can't talk about the universe in Kreyòl." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? I have read entire books talking about philosophy in Haitian Creole. And I think what we're doing at the Kreyòl Institute and at Jaden Timoun is making sure people are armed. And I say this very intentionally, Chris, because I got to remind people what I come from. I'm literally the child of revolutionaries. I'm the great 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 grandbaby of folks that were like, okay, we've had enough. We gotta go burn some houses and cut some heads and make things happen. We gotta get free. That's who I'm the child of. So when I say I arm my students, I really mean that. Like I mean that they feel like, okay, I have the tools to take on this battle, whether it be a personal battle within themselves, with the internalized anti-blackness that they have, an external battle maybe with their family who doesn't understand why they're paying all this money for them to go to college and then they're just taking Haitian Creole classes, or an even more external battle with community or coworkers or the system. I mean, I don't know how far out we want to go because the fight is long, but I really want to arm people for battles because these are battles. These are actual moments of like, my life could change in this moment. I could allow this person to say this thing about me, and then I take it and carry it with me, and it holds me down and prevents me from seeing myself. Or I can stand up and say, no, actually, here's the truth of my language. Here's the truth of my people. And in this moment, I'm able to speak on it because of all this work that I've done at the Institute and at Jaden Timoun. So that's why I call my work heart work, because it resides in me. It actually gives me life and allows me to stand strong in the face of different battles. Because the truth is, there is not a lot of institutional support for Haitian Creole. I still have graduate students from other universities that I'm unaffiliated with emailing me and asking me if I can write letters to help them get support for using Haitian Creole as their qualifying language for their graduate studies because their university has told them that it doesn't count. How can you not count a language? But I still get emails about this now. And so the lack of institutional support, the societal pressure of how to view Haitian Creole, the long history of Kreyòl living in the shadow of French, the systemic degradation of the language. I mean, the list goes on so long. So I think the work that I do is definitely rooted in shifting that power dynamic and making sure people feel like, okay, I'm ready to take this on.
So, how can people learn more about these venues
Yeah.
for Haitian Creole, whether it's at the university level at NYU, whether it's at the childhood level with Jaden Timoun,
Absolutely.
or whether it's the Haitian Creole Language Institute? How can people find you?
So even though I'm an elder millennial, you can find me all over social media. I'm actually very social media savvy for my age. So you can find me just by searching Haitian Creole Institute, or you can look up Jaden Timoun, spelled Jaden Timoun, Jaden Timoun, spelled in Kreyòl. And we're all over the place. Or you can just Google, because I'm killing my Google game. You can just Google Haitian Creole New York, and you'll find tons of information about the work that we do. And I have to say, despite the larger lack of institutional support for Haitian Creole, I actually get a lot of institutional support from NYU and Columbia in supporting offering Haitian Creole to students at both spaces. So for that, I'm very, very grateful. And you can find us also just by searching up Kreyòl at NYU. We have been going strong now. This year is our 10th year of Kreyòl at NYU. And one thing I'm good at is making sure that there is content available for the archives. And so all of our events from over the years, our conferences, our panels, our workshops, our children's events, our dance parties, like all of that is documented online. You can find us everywhere. So maybe you weren't taking notes while listening to this and you hear only this part. Just search Haitian Creole on Google and you're going to find lots of content regarding the work that we do.
Great. And we'll also put some links in the description to the audio version of
Yes.
this podcast as well as the YouTube version, so you can find those there as
Cool.
well.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah, Winnie, thank you so much for this conversation. I've really appreciated it.
Of course.